I reckon. Okay. So thanks very much for coming on the podcast. We appreciate you agreeing to come on and have a chat with us. The idea behind this is that we want to see different athletes, coaches, people within the industry, businesses, etc. We want to see their route progression to where they are now, to understand from our viewpoint, but also from people listening that are also trying to do the same as us and become part of the sort of fitness world, how you can do that. Every single episode so far has been a different story, a different reason, a different sort of route, whether it's from sports or, wanting to make themselves look better when they were a kid and that sort of thing. So there's been like a massive sort of mismatch of different routes and journeys. And it's been pretty interesting so far, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate you adding me to your list of potential guests. I'm always happy to do podcasts when I have the time. So I look forward to having this chat now.
It is really appreciated for you to come on, and we've the amount of people that said yes to us so far, and we've got a list now, and we're adding to it daily. People are asking us, or we're having conversations with people just on the back of the podcast that are saying, "Oh, I wouldn't mind doing it," and it's getting out of hand. Really, we're booked up till like the end of May, and we've still got
That's
people
brilliant.
to ask. So
that's brilliant.
It's pretty good. So we're really and we're enjoying it as well. We were saying last night, for us, it's a little bit fanboyish. A lot of the people that we're speaking to, including yourself, it's people that we've sort of seen content and bits and pieces from over the years. And it's nice to actually have a chat and ask the questions that, may not have been covered that we've got.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I'm sure as you're going to find out, the more you sort of speak to guys who are in the fitness industry, we're just normal people. We're not like some superhero, we're not some untouchable. To me, I still find it very strange that where people hold me in regard, if I'm really introverted in a sense that I sort of keep to myself. And if people if I have podcasts or people have a chat with me, then great, I love chatting to people, but I tend to sort of keep to myself. That it's just strange how over the last 3 or 4 years, how my name has become so well known in the UK with supplement needs, and obviously when I was with the JP website, that it just mind boggles me sometimes that I went from being this national level bodybuilder in Ireland that sort of done his own thing, took care of his own health, to basically being sort of like a household name with supplement needs. It's sometimes
the first time I heard your name was on TM Cycles YouTube. He's forever talking about you and talking about the product and whatnot. And I saw the pre or whatever it was that he was talking about on his story the other day, which I thought seemed pretty interesting. But he's quite likes to have a look at the background of stuff, doesn't he? Which I assume he enjoys.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, Tom was one of the guys that sort of, my sort of story with Instagram and social media is my wife. When I met my wife 6 years ago, she wanted me to get on social media, and she wanted me to get out there, and sort of, she's saying with the knowledge that I had, that she wanted me to get out there and basically spread what I knew. That I was not that I was keeping anything to myself, but she was like, what you know is too valuable to keep to yourself. So I started doing, little stories on Instagram, and then before I knew, I had people like, I guess, Tom, and through the Jordan Peters forum, I was starting to speak out a little bit on certain aspects towards health and steroids that seemed very far-fetched, that people were still buying into a lot of bro science, and showing people, okay, you've had this sort of belief for the last 10 years. Well, it's actually completely wrong, and this is why.
Yeah.
And that to me was more important, to start, getting people actually thinking of the logical reason behind why their health deteriorates when they take steroids, or the actual root causes of why your health suffers when you take steroids, and how you might actually then implement certain, supplement strategies or lifestyle strategies to offset some of that implication. And so it was Morgan's idea to get me on social media and get me talking out, because, as I said, I was just if someone spoke to me in the gym about steroids or supplements or whatever, I'd have a conversation with them. I'd sit down, have a chat with them, obviously in the change room, and like I'd have no problem discussing things with people, but I wasn't very vocal in that. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to go on social media. I'm going to get like now. I think I have 21,000 followers. That scares me sometimes.
Crazy.
I didn't plan to be like in the beginning. People would sort of message me questions on Instagram or again Jordan's forum, and I just happily answered them. I wasn't getting anything out of it. Like when I started on Jordan Peter's website, it was literally for fun.
Yeah.
And I had enough of other forums on the internet that you can try and speak logically to certain people, and they have that sort of dysonic nature where they don't want to accept what you're trying to tell them is the truth, or which is the actual science. So I felt, okay, I'll stay on one forum, which was Jordan's only forum, and I'll start trying to educate the members of that forum. And slowly over time, people started to, believe in what I was saying was actually true, and starting to obviously see that it's not really your health now that we want to be concerned with. Of course, you don't want to do something stupid now, but it's your health in 15 years' time that you need to be thinking about. That, when you're playing out in the garden with your kids and you drop dead of a heart attack, that you need to be obviously mindful that the choices you make now impact where you're going to be in the future. And I was trying to make people aware that, if you're following this methodology of blasting and cruising, which is, taking stupid high dosages and then cruising on stupid high doses, that you're never giving your body this break to recover. And I was trying to make people see through this, that we need periods of time where we're going to make health a priority and allow our health to come back to what you'd call, your normal baseline health.
Yeah.
Assess, is it worth going again if you do take steroids, or, is it really worth the risk of endangering your health because this is what your blood work is showing, and this is potentially where your health is heading in the next, say, 5 years.
Okay.
And so I guess it's really all just been like serendipity, because from there, Jordan offered me a contract to educate full time on his website. And then I was buying supplements from Lee at Supplement Needs as an online shop. And I seen Lee was releasing his product of Supplement Needs supplements. And I just messaged him one night. He had like a ZMA sleep sort of 5-HTP product stack where you got a ZMA and a 5-HTP in the one sort of tub. And I said to him, you know what? I've been taking this stack of ingredients for sleep the last while because I worked as a chemical engineer, as a shift engineer. I said to him, I've been taking a stack of ingredients for the last 2 years and it works a treat. Helps you fall asleep faster, helps you stay asleep. And I said to him, you'd be better off, selling that instead of your ZMA 5-HTP sort of sleep stack, you could say. And from there, like, that's where the sort of sleep stack came out. And slowly over time from that, then within, I think about 4 weeks, Lee offered me a contract to be formulator for Supplement Needs. So, it's literally just been one thing to the next, where I've never had a plan of, all right, I'm going to enter the UK fitness industry by doing this. It's sort of been like answered a few questions on a forum through a supplement company, a formula, which then led to being offered a contract. And then from there, just having ideas in my head of, right, this is how I approach my own health philosophies. What if we had one company, because this was another thing I said to Lee with Supplement Needs, if we could have one company that stocked everything, because I had a pain in my arse going onto Amazon, other, I guess, supplement stores that sold like Swanson's and other top health brands.
Yeah.
And you're buying, this from here and that from there, and you're waiting for them all to come. And it was just a nightmare that, eventually just didn't really want to stock up on things, because it meant you had to go to like 6 different websites.
Yeah.
So I said, if you can get one company in the UK that has just like a one page that you go to and you just click on all the products you want, completely takes that stress away from a consumer, makes it so much easier for someone to go, right, oh, liver health, I'll go liver stack. Kidney health, you know, we had kidney and blood pressure stack to start, and now it's Ashtrag Flow. That you literally just went to the website and it made it so easy for you to pick what products you needed based on what was wrong with your health or what you were trying to protect with your health.
Yeah.
And I guess I've been sort of lucky that no matter what I've thrown at Lee in terms of formulations, he's always banked in on it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where the ethos sort of came, where I was adamant from day one with Lee that if we're going to do products, we're going to do them right.
Yeah.
We're not going to underdose. We're not going to shortchange people. We're going to do no proprietary blends. Everything is going to be fully transparent. And basically, the consumer comes first and the profits come second.
Yeah, yeah, and you sort of set a baseline as well, I guess, because a lot of people are sort of doing the same similar stuff now, aren't they? They're, you know, making sure that everyone's aware of what's in there and the dosages, and the ones that don't kind of just get battered to one side, don't they? There's not many, many supplement companies that are getting away with it now.
No, or they get cut down because we just too many of us started straight talking, like me and Rich, for example, and Strom, that we'll just cut things down if it's bullshit. We just call it that.
Yeah,
you know, I had enough of supplement companies taking the mickey out of people. You know, people were buying products because they thought that the label was amazing, but when you actually looked at what you were getting and compared to the markup of the ingredients, people were just getting ripped off. And the more I got further and further into formulate with supplement needs, the more it became apparent that, you know, I'm not going to say budget brands, but your sort of supplement shop top tier stuff is made for pennies basically, and sold at such a high margin that the consumer isn't even aware that you think they're getting a brilliant product.
Well, you think when it comes to something that you take, or like a supplement or a tablet, as a normal sort of day-to-day person, I was exactly the same when I started. I just bought anything that looked good on a label, and you don't look to see what's in there because you trust that if this says it's the hardest pre-workout about, then I'm just going to pick that up. Or if the label looks good and it says it's a multivitamin, then I'll just buy this one because that must just be what it is. You go to Boots and you've only got a couple of quid, so you just buy the cheap ones off the shelf, but don't really think about the dosage. You just think about, well, I'm supposed to have vitamin D, I'm supposed to have, whatever else. So I'm just going to pick up the cheapest or the ones that look the best and not actually look at the dosages and understand the reasons why you're having that amount.
And I mean, it's become more apparent over the last few years with other sort of companies that are sort of getting on the bandwagon with what I've done with supplement needs, that they're doing kidney products, they're doing liver products. And the issue there is now that you have companies that are putting out similar products that are, half the dosage of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But the consumer doesn't really see it that way. The consumer sees, oh, that liver product has TWP, but they don't actually look at what's the dosage of the TWP in the product.
Yeah.
And think that, okay, because this product is, say, £25 and liver stack could be £40. Oh, well, I'm getting a bargain here with £25 when, it's actually half dosed, or it's not even a quarter dosed of what we have in the liver stack. That it's very difficult then to actually convince the consumer. And this comes back to that sort of dishonest nature that you're trying to prove to someone that, oh, by the way, what you're paying for is actually half dosed. And although it's slightly cheap, you're not really getting the full benefit.
Yeah, I think recently, me myself, I've actually been watching yourself, Dean, and Rich, and even Danny and Insight. There've been a lot more understanding about what dosage actually does, like whether, like, if a gram of this will actually do anything, or it's just basically filler kind of thing. So it's coming a lot more to the mind of just normalish kind of non-competitive people of how these actual things are dosed.
I mean, even the pre-series that we've released with Supplement Needs, those 3 products, I wasn't prepared to enter into the pre-workout market with Supplement Needs unless I could bring something that was completely different to what Rich was doing at Strom or what other competitors were releasing.
Yeah.
And it was when I come up with the idea of the 3 products that you stack together, a non-stimulant pump, a focus-based sort of mild caffeine nootropic, and then obviously the heavy stim product that has no caffeine. When it came to formulating those, the pump product, we came to sort of a roadblock during the manufacture of the pump product, because the sheer cost of the ingredients to make it an affordable product was really becoming a barrier for us. And I remember like being really adamant to Lee that I'm not changing anything on that formula. We'll just have to really bargain our way with the manufacturers to get the price down.
Yeah. Because
to me, the full product, because I'd sort of beta trialed all these formulas myself, I was like, you know what, if it say for example you were to half one of the ingredients, okay, you're saving a few bob, but at the end of the day, are you really getting maximum benefit out of it? Whereas, is it, you know, worthwhile taking a little sting on a small bit of margin and actually putting out a product that is unrivaled?
Yeah.
And that's sort of where my like arm twisting to Lee when it comes to releasing the products is that, okay, the margin on these products, especially like the pre-series, isn't going to be huge, but you're basically putting out a product that no one else is willing to put out. As in, you're putting out something that is absolutely mega dosed, has, you know, several trademarked ingredients, and all at like the clinical dosages that are required. That, okay, you're not going to make a huge margin on each one that you sell, but overall, the impact that has to your reputation is huge. That you're putting out products where you're putting a belief into the consumer that they're coming first, and then obviously from there, then they can buy into the rest of the product line, because they then start to see that.
And you can make a margin on the other products that, you know, there is more of a margin on. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to business like that, but you're still maintaining that ethos of, you know, full transparency, and, you know, being willing to go to that sort of, first of all, the MOQs that are required to release products are quite high. So you're really putting a gamble on releasing something like that, because obviously you're having to invest in a lot of product in order to put it out in the market. But having that faith that you're able to then educate the consumer on the ingredients and have them become aware that, you know, you're coming first.
Yeah.
Of course, you're paying a small premium above some of the other brands, but when you actually look at what you're getting, it's actually ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's been a challenge with some of the later products to get them out to, I guess, convince Lee that, you know, these are going to sell and they're going to sell well. But it's just having a faith towards standing by our guns of not being willing to take any corners.
Yeah, I guess at this point you don't really want to go back on that ethos and, you know, start releasing things that, if you went for a half dose, it may still be up there with the best pre's, you know, that are on the market, but then, you know, because you've tested it, that you could have done better. And I guess you don't really want to go back on that.
And then what's sort of difficult now at this point is that we have that many different products that it's a challenge when it comes to the synergy. Like, so when you're formulating something, it's easy to just slap a load of ingredients onto a piece of paper and go, oh yeah, that looks amazing, I'm going to make that. You have to think of the overall brand synergy as well. So, you know, we have an intra-workout, essentially amino acid product called Intra EAA. But within that, it already has 9 grams of citrulline malate. So I need to figure out, you know, if someone's taking that and then they're taking a serving of our pump product that has 6 grams of citrulline, they're getting a massive amount of citrulline within that peri-workout window. Then, you know, there's a small dose of creatine inside the electrolyte. So if I put a creatine into another product, are they going to be stacking that? So you have to sort of see, are people going to stack products together? So again, it offers synergy where adding, say, the electrolyte to the essential amino acid, and then adding on the pump pre-workout, that there's nothing overlapping where you're paying money for the same ingredients basically between them. So creatine's one. I remember when I first started that, you know, most pre-workouts contains, you know, 2 or 3 grams of creatine, but if you're already taking that as well, you sort of, like I say, overlapping just for the sake of it when you're not reading exactly what's in there. And that's where it becomes like you have to view a brand as a global picture, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to make this product just because this is a cool product, when you could have other ones that sort of meet half the criteria of what you're already trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's sort of been an interesting job for me as formulator over the last 3 years now with Supplement Needs, that I'm putting together products that have a sole purpose and there's no overlap, but there's the added synergism that if you add the three, like, so you add liver stack, the kidney stack, Ashtrag flow, and CV stack, that the three of them combined, you know, take care of the three major organs in your body, but there's no overlapping ingredients within the three. So
yeah,
I guess that's sort of where, on top of my outspoken views on anabolic steroids and health, has gained reputation. I'm willing to call bullshit on a spade being a spade when I see other companies releasing products that are being put out just based on a reputation of a brand, or, you know, the people behind the brand, that it's, you know, people buy into that sort of thing. And to me, I can't really stand by someone or a brand putting out products that are just being put out to meet a profit margin.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, this is people's health we're talking about. So if we're going to make supplements, we're going to make them right, so that at the end of the day, they give the benefit that they're supposed to give. And I mean, I've seen enough blood work over the last 3 years to sort of have no doubt in my mind that Supplement Needs products do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, that was the first question, but you pretty much covered the entire thing. But the one, just sort of go back a little bit further, how did it all start? Like, at what point did you go, right, I want to be a chemical engineer? At what point did you go, right, I like bodybuilding, I'm going to start doing that? Where did that begin?
So I guess originally growing up, I wanted to be a medical doctor. And then after sort of like halfway through secondary school or middle school, high school, or whatever you want to call it, I just seen that the life of a doctor wasn't sort of what I wanted, like what a medical doctor had in terms of hours of training and and all that before you get to sort of the end goal. So it was like, you know, geez, that's like 8 to 10 years of full training, and you're still, you know, working shifts and this, that, and the other. That, do I really want that in my life? Now, that's not to say I ended up sort of going down that path to a PhD and working shift work as a chemical engineer. But at the time, just my view on medicine being a career completely changed. And funny enough, sort of what I really wanted to do was become a musician. Like, I was a really good musician when I was younger. So when everything sort of fell through and not want to do medicine, I wanted to go and do music in college. My parents basically said no. and he said, they then bargained with me and said, you know what, if you do an actual real degree, and I'm sorry to any musicians or music teachers or anyone with a music degree that's listening, but he said, if you do a proper degree that you apply yourself to, that you can get a career out of. And again, sorry to music teachers. But my parents basically said, if you have something that you can fall back on, you know, by the time you finish, you know, that first degree, you'll be only 21. Because I was quite young. I finished school when I was 17. So they said, you know, you'd be only 21. You'd still have, you know, a lot of time to go and study music, but you'd always have another degree to fall back on if you wanted to go get a job somewhere. So I thought, okay, that sounds fairly reasonable. Like, I can still do music in the background.
Yeah.
And so I chose a course in chemistry and pharmacology because the next sort of best subject on top of like music and art for me was science. So I went into chemistry in Maynooth University, sort of breezed my way through university. Like, chemistry was such an easy subject for me that, you know, I was coming top of the university every year. And when I came to the end of the 4 years, I at that point I'd sort of grown up a little bit and decided, okay, I was playing in a really good band at the time as like part-time when I was doing my degree, and we were like gigging all over Dublin. Like we were pretty well known that we were, you know, to me it seemed logical that, oh, okay, we'll take the next step in music when I'm finished my degree. But for sort of at the end of the degree, I thought, you know what if I do a PhD? That sounds like fun. You know, let's go and do some research. So I then started looking into scholarships in my last year to go on and do a PhD and sort of stay in college.
Yeah.
Because at that point I had no ambition to go get a job, and there wasn't really that much or that many jobs or, you know, that many career prospects in like the late 2000s where everything that was going on with the economy. So I was like, you know what, let's do a PhD, and hopefully then, you know, that's 4 years later, there's probably going to be better career prospects, because I mean, back then, PhDs were getting jobs that normal degrees were getting. You know, analytical chemists normally only need a bachelor's degree. But you now had the sort of the industry of science saturated with PhDs who are finishing and not finding work, that they were getting hired by companies to do like bench rat stuff that you would have paid someone like 25, 26 grand to do. PhDs signing up to do it because they had nowhere to go. So companies were gobbling up PhDs and paying them next to nothing because they could. So I managed to secure 2 scholarships, and that kept me in university from 2009 to 2013. And when it came, again, this is sort of how my whole life has been. People always say to, you know, what's your 5-year plan, or, you know, what you're going to do in the future. And I've never really sat and had like a wish board, or, you know, a daily mantra, or, you know, my affirmations of where my life is going. Maybe it's a little foolish, or, you know, maybe I'm that focused that when I enter into something, I commit hard to it. That when I was coming to the end of the PhD, I was sort of thinking, where do I go from here? On one side, I was sort of offered a principal investigator role to continue doing research. But then you're sort of looking at, okay, if I take that, I have to spend the next 5 to 10 years begging people for money to allow me to continue doing research, because I need someone to be paying me to do research in a college setting, or I need to get some sort of enterprise scholarship, or I need to get some way of government funding to keep me researching. Otherwise, I've got no money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that sounds like a lot of work. And then trying to, you know, keep on top of research. Or normally what happens is you convince someone to give you money, but on top of your own research, they want you to investigate something else. So now you've got like 2 projects that you're trying to juggle. And I thought, okay, that sounds like a lot of hassle for really what it's worth in the end. And that's a couple of published papers with my name on it. So I was given a lecture at a conference about 2 months before the end of my PhD, and there was a guy there, and he was given a lecture from Intel. And basically at the end of the lecture, I just went up to him and said, "Oh, that was a really cool presentation. How would I get a job in Intel?" And he just said to me, "Oh, just email me your CV and I'll take care of it." And literally 2 days later, I got an interview and then got offered a job. And it's sort of like Intel is literally a 10-minute drive from Maynooth University. So it's literally like going from university to Intel.
You're in the back door,
So-
in the front door.
Yeah, so a lot of the guys that finished, you know, obviously who done PhDs in my lab went to Intel because it was so close. And I didn't really want to go into the pharma industry, and I didn't really want to go into drug development or drug research. So, you know, moving into chemical and mechanical engineering was a whole new, you know, venture to me. And it seemed like, you know, a bit of a challenge, but ultimately fulfilling, given, you know, I'm still there 7 years later. But sort of all in the background, then I guess on top of music and science, I was a kickboxer. And then a pretty bad accident in training led to my right ankle getting smashed. So from there, sort of started going to the gym, and sort of challenged myself at one point that, okay, it'd be interesting to do a bodybuilding show, given, you know, I'd been doing a lot of gym training for kickboxing and keep myself fit, and my body fat was low. And just from there, I competed once, and really that just sort of bit the bug. I went back to kickboxing again for a little bit, but by that point I had my mind made up that, you know, let's see how far I can get with bodybuilding, and, you know, in the process apply some of the knowledge that I've sort of gained over my, you know, my education of pharmacology, and applying that aspect to bodybuilding. And I guess, like I said, around 2016, 2017 was when I started getting more active, obviously online, and sort of like leads into the supplement needs and everything. So it's been like I said, it's been a lot of serendipity, but there's been a lot of, I guess, commitment that, you know, when I've entered into something, I've gone for it full force.
Yeah, definitely.
So on that same line, as you're saying, as you go into the bodybuilding, I know you did compete, but have you got any future goals for competing, and anything maybe that you're thinking about formulation wise that you've not been able to do yet in supplement needs, that you've got kind of sitting in the back of your head, just waiting for the opportunity?
Yeah, so competing wise, the last time I competed was 2017, and then 2018 me and my wife got married, and then she got pregnant, and since then it's sort of been like we bought a new house. Supplement needs started to ramp up in 2019 and 2020, and then obviously all of last year being a storm. So I was planning to compete last year, and then I was planning to compete this year. But given how the uncertainty of the gyms are still shut in Ireland and Northern Ireland, so where I live now with my wife is on the border between North and South. So 5-minute drive, I have my pick of a Northern Ireland gym or a Southern Ireland gym. So given the uncertainty that we still don't have a date for gyms to open in Northern Ireland or Ireland, I've postponed competing for this year, because it just doesn't make sense to try and commit to something, especially with, you know, our second son was born back in February 6 weeks ago. So trying to juggle being a dad of 2 kids and training and eating. I'm very fortunate. I have a very understanding wife that keeps me on top of it, like my eating, and, you know, gives me some time to train out in the garage. Like when everything kicked off last year, I kitted out the garage with basic stuff, but enough that has allowed me to continue progress in my physique. So
how has that been? Because I know with the garage and some of the things in your house, you were talking about the mold thing, that was an ongoing saga. How has that saga been? And I know that you're saying about your lungs or something like that. You felt like there was something happening there with ingesting the mold.
Yeah. So for years, my immune system hasn't been the greatest, in that, you know, I'd get a sinus infection twice a year, and it'd be quite bad. And even now I'm a bit nasally. So I could never really figure out what was going on. And then when our first son was born, like I said, I live in Northern Ireland, but my parents live in Dublin. So when I was working, Intel is in Dublin. So I used to stay at my parents for 3 days and then drive back up the road again. So I'd work my 12-hour shift, sleep at my parents, go to work again, and then drive back up the road. But I remember going back after my son was born to my parents after being away for a month, and out of nowhere, I got this horrendous sinus infection. And I mean, horrendous flu that just came on within 24 hours. But I could never really figure out what was going on. So I went to the doctor, got antibiotics, thinking that it was a bad viral and bacterial infection because of how everything was. And that was all right. That sort of cleared up. Still felt a little tired, but then we went to a spa. This was 2019. We went to a spa in May, and he had like a really dry, arid sauna. And I thought, same story again. I was feeling a little run down. My throat was a little scratchy. Sinus were a little inflamed. So I said, right, I'll get in the sauna. Let's see what happens. Like, you know, the old wives' tale of sweating stuff out of you.
Yeah.
So I got in the sauna, and it was well over 100 in the sauna. Dry heat, like probably one of the driest saunas I've ever been, where when you're breathing through your nose was burning the inside of your nasal cavity. Spent 20 minutes in the sauna, got out, wiped myself down with a towel. The towel was black. And I'm looking at the towel. So I'd sort of researched a little bit into mold years ago. And I knew that one of the sort of detoxification pathways of how you excrete mold toxins is through your skin.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I got back into the sauna for another 20 minutes, got back out again, more black stuff. Got back in again for another 20 minutes. And by the third round, there was no black coming out of my sweat anymore. And that whole weekend after that, I felt amazing. So that sort of led me on to, okay, there's an issue at my parents, obviously, with mold somewhere in because obviously I stay in the attic.
Yeah.
My parents' house was built, there's 3 stories. And at one point we did have a little water leak from the shower out into the bedroom. So I thought, okay, there's obviously some sort of mold or spores in my parents' house that's sort of causing an immune response. So I sort of dealt with that, doing regular saunas and whatever. And then when we bought this house in the end of 2019, when we were getting ready to move in January, this house was just a mess. There was like, the people that lived here were like chain smokers. So the house was just riddled with nicotine stains. Yeah. The garage. So when we viewed this house, we didn't see anything really wrong with it. We thought, this looks good. This looks like, okay, there's a stale smell in the air, but you know, if we paint and air out the house, we'll be able to clean that all up. And then there was the garage. We went out to the garage, and the garage like was stained yellow with nicotine. It was like a smoke cut. But I'm looking at the garage door, and obviously because of the smell of nicotine, wherever, I'm not paying attention, but looking at the garage door, like, okay, it's garage door. The estate agent is saying, oh, that garage door doesn't work. You know, it's sealed shut. It's just a redundant door. And I'm like, okay, that's all right. We'll be able to change that. So we moved in as we were renovating. It's out in the garage, and obviously with the nicotine starting to clear with the people out of the house now a couple of months, and the smell of smoke. I'm in the garage because obviously we're just dumping all rubbish out into the garage, like just out into the garage, and then we'll clean out the garage when we're done. And I walk over and I'm like, it's just like a funny smell in here. And I went over to the garage door. When we viewed the house, the garage door looked like it was painted black. And when I got closer to it, it was rotted to F. To the point that then I went out to the front of the house, and he had the door stuck together with duct tape and painted white. And so after about 2 weeks of going into that garage, in and out, dumping stuff off, I got horrendously sick. And at that point, I was like to my wife, it's clearly mold. It's, you know, how I started to address that then was every night I was going down. We have a local like swimming pool, and there's a sauna. So I was just going every night, spending an hour in the sauna, coming out and, you know, just wiping the black stuff off me. But obviously when we got rid of the old garage door and we cleaned it up, for months I was still training out in that garage. Once when everything kicked in with lockdown, I was training out in the garage. I got some real basic equipment from our local gym when they were closed. They said, you know, if you want to come down and take a barbell and plates, by all means. I bought a cheap squat rack for £100, and I was out there training and, you know, making progress. And then about April, I got really sick again. I was like, something's not right here. So eventually I decided you can do a mycotoxin urine test. So you can do a urine analysis where it'll look for the presence of mycotoxins, which are toxins that mold produce. And long and behold, my mycotoxin test came back with ochratoxin sky high. So ochratoxin is made by aspergillus mold, and it is quite nephrotoxic, so it can cause damage to your kidneys. And what sort of drove me down the path of I kept saying to myself it's mold, but I had no proof until I had this test done. But all I knew is that when you research into ochratoxin toxicity, it drives your melatonin production down, and it drives what's called antidiuretic hormone down. Every night, without fail, every 2 hours, I'd wake up and piss, like full bladder piss. Like my body couldn't hold any water.
Yeah.
And to the point that I started to worry that something was either up in my prostate or with my kidneys. And obviously ochratoxin affects the kidneys. But then ochratoxin has this effect on your antidiuretic hormone. So once my results came back and the ochratoxin was sky high, I thought, okay, it's now time that obviously with all the gyms shut, all the leisure centres shut, there was no longer access to saunas. So I went and I bought a portable infrared sauna. I started taking, what happens with mycotoxins in your body is that you get reabsorbed. Mm-hmm. So what really should happen is your bile gets released from your gallbladder, and that emulsifies fats, and that's what sort of helps generate feces or stool. So when you go to the number 2. So when your bile enters into your small intestine, it should mix, and obviously it gets, compacted with the food that's trying to digest in your small intestine, and then get shipped down with the bulk of your stool. But you also have an enterohepatic vein that helps recirculate bile back to your gallbladder. So, if you have excess bile left over, it goes back to your gallbladder. But these mycotoxins are very soluble in bile. So when you have this recirculation process happening, the mycotoxins are going back into the system. I go.
Yeah.
So you never get rid of them out of your system unless you take what are called binders. So binders are either positively or negatively charged molecules. So it can be like activated charcoal, if you've ever heard of that, you can take if you've drank or if been poisoned. Activated charcoal would be a very basic binder. Then you have like small molecular chain carbon molecules like zeolite and bentonite clay that have been specifically made that you have a certain pore size that you can trap molecules in, and you have a potential surface charge that again traps molecules on them. Mm-hmm. So between the home infrared sauna and the binders, I've just ordered another mycotoxin test now. So it's been a year since I've done the last one. So between doing saunas pretty much every evening, the last while with our new son born, I haven't been able to get out and do regular saunas. I'm probably doing one once a week, whereas before I'd be doing pretty one every second day or one every day.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see, if my ochratoxin levels are still sky high, then there's a problem still in this house.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'd be interesting to see if your wife had the same test to understand whether she had the same toxin.
Now, you can do so for anyone that suspects that they've been poisoned, and I mean mycotoxin or any sort of other sort of biotoxin, you can do a visual contrast sensitivity test, a VCS test. You can do it for free online, and basically you do it with your left eye and your right eye, and it tests how you can perceive the contrast of different shades of grey. Right. So it's like an eye test. You just click, it basically shows you a picture and it gives you like 6 options and it goes, what's this picture? You have to click what one you see, basically.
Yeah.
How mycotoxins affect your body is that they deplete glutathione, which is one of your key antioxidants. And it leads you to be susceptible to macular degeneration. So your sensitivity of your eye to seeing contrasting behavior or contrasting light changes. Mm-hmm. So by doing a VCS test, you should have a specific sensitivity to a certain degree. And I forget now how this marks it, but it's sort of it's along a like 5 gray scale. So you have 5 different sort of tests within it, and it sort of tracks how many of them you get right. And ideally, you want to be in the upper 90 percentile for all 5 tests. Whereas mine was like, okay, I got a few right in the first one, and the second one was down here, and then the next one was down here. And it's sort of like, it then predicts your mycotoxicity. You can't
Yeah.
say that you're actually what you've got present, but it goes, you know, based on these results, you know, you've either got exposure to biotoxins or mycotoxins.
Right.
Now, the flip side, my wife done it, and she's just on the like upper mid range between the two, where it's saying possibly that you have some, or not possible. You know, it's inconclusive.
Yeah.
But she's never had any of the symptoms that I have had in this house. Like I've gone around feeling like a brick wall sometimes, that my body's just fatigued to bits, and the inflammation that comes from it. So last May, June, at the end of one of my like off-season pushes, we sort of pushed my food up to a ridiculously high amount. So my carbs were, I think, 850 grams. We were close to like 5,000 calories, but the majority of my carbs were coming from like sugary sources. Like my post-workout meal was 300 grams of cereal and like 5 Rice Krispie treat bars. Like, it was ridiculous what I was eating.
Oh, if only.
He's on zero carb.
At one point, my body started to get really inflamed and soft, and started to lay down more visceral fat than normal. That even though the energy balance was technically good, I was getting fatter and fatter. And this was at the height of when I got the mycotoxin test done and it came back sky high. I was like, okay, well, that makes sense, because ochratoxin does have estrogenic effects in your body as well. And when you have mycotoxins present, it upregulates your aromatase. So now your body is converting more of your testosterone to estrogen as well.
Yeah.
So that whole sort of mold scenario, it'll be interesting now on this result. The test should come tomorrow, send it back to the US, and I'll have results maybe in 4 weeks. It'll be interesting to see the strategies that I've put in place over the last year, how much it's reduced by. If not, you know, have I managed to eliminate most of it? But most often than not, a lot of people have mold in their environment and don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that this sort of falls back to the garage was the big problem. And then just before my second son was born in January, I put on my story. My wife was hoovering the hall. Now, since last October or September, my right eye used to twitch. And I mean, like, it'd be like this, twitching. And then it would stop, and then it would twitch, to the point that I was trying everything: eye sprays, eye baths, questioning, was I getting enough sleep? Was I developing some sort of neurological disorder? Everything that, you know, to me, when you read into it again, eye twitches, if it's not stress, acute stress or lack of sleep, it's biotoxins. So you've been exposed to some sort of neurological toxin that's causing problems in your body. But anyway, my wife's hoovering the hall in January, and I'd say for about 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, under the stairs was starting to smell a little bit, but not like drastic, because I kept saying to my wife, smell it damp underneath that stairs. And then she'd be like, no, I just get like the smell of like cigarette smoke from last year. I'm like, all right, well, if that's what you're saying. But yeah, but she's hoovering the hall, and all of a sudden this big chunk of paint flakes off the wall in the hall, and I'm looking at her going, that's not right. And then so I went and I got a screwdriver, and I pulled away the skirting board, and it was all damp up the wall. I said, oh. So I got
like
out.
It followed you.
Look, it definitely followed me in this house. So then I had to get out a carpenter friend to pull up the floor, thinking that, you know, if I get him to lift the floor, we'll be able to save the wooden floor.
Yeah.
Thinking that, oh, there might be like a small leak somewhere. So he lifts up the floor, and when we were renovating this house, they made a mistake with our floors, where they gave us really good thick insulation for the wooden floor by mistake. I never charged us properly for it. So we put that downstairs. It's really a floor that it's like an insulation that you put on your top floor to stop the heat leaving. So only for that was laid down, I'd say we would have found this problem a lot quicker. Because the wood was perfect. As soon as you lifted up the insulation underneath, the concrete was soaking.
Yeah.
All the way up to the front door. And so we got out a leak detector guy. He couldn't find the leak. Then we have a plumber friend. He came out. Then we thought it was the sewer under the house. And I thought, if it's the sewer, good luck, because how are we fixing the sewer? Because we have a toilet under the stairs. So I thought, okay, if it's the sewer, because that toilet used to block up. I thought, okay, if the sewer is not done right, or there's a crack in one of the sewer pipes, we're done. Because to repair that, you have to drill through the house, and basically it's not a nice job.
It's not an easy job.
So eventually we took the toilet away. We done a periscope up through the drain. That was all grand. Got the leak detector fella back out, and he goes, oh, there looks like there's a pool of cool water just outside the door to the toilet. So our plumber friend went, and he's like digging up the ground to try and track the leak. And the more he's digging into the concrete, the softer the ground is becoming. To the point he gets down to the cold water supply that runs into the tap in the toilet, and just on a small little copper bend was this little drip, and I'm talking like a small little drip every 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And that must have been dripping for, I'd say, 5 months, 5 or 6 months, judging by how much water's come out of it so far. But afterwards, inside the bathroom under the stairs, I always thought it was PVC paneling that was on the walls, like this sort of like, it was in the kitchen, I was in our utility room, it's like just PVC sheets. And our friend, the plumber, turns around and he goes, you do realize that's wood, you know, that's a wooden panel with just a PVC overlay on top. I was like, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, I see them all the time. I said to him, okay, if that's wood and we've had all this moisture, I know what's coming next.
Yeah.
So we pulled all the panels off the wall, and long behold, behind the wall was riddled in black mold. And every time I was going to the toilet over the last while, I'd always go downstairs, because I'd either be in the kitchen or, you know, you'd be in the sitting room. So you'd go into the toilet under the stairs. Under the stairs had no smell whatsoever. So you can be being exposed to mold and have no smell, no mildew smell or nothing. And it's there, and you don't even know about it. And that's why, you know, when people go, oh, I've got a little patch of black mold above my bed, it's been there for years, it's grand. All right, it's grand maybe for you, until a point where your immune system tells you to go F off.
Yeah. And that's all you can see. There might be more than that.
Yeah, and then, you know, then people go, oh, I'm just going to scrub the mold. And you're like, well, you do know that soapy water actually feeds mold, because water is what it uses to grow. And then you go, oh, I'll just bleach it then. And then bleaching it, when you bleach mold, you're basically trying to kill it. And like any surviving organism, it's going to fight back. And over evolution, these mycotoxins were actually developed by mold, by fungus, as a deterrent, in that when another mold was trying to invade their environment in nature, they made these mycotoxins to kill them. But somewhere along the lines, humans started to interfere with mold growing in nature, that they produced mycotoxins that are toxic to humans to try and kill off the human, so the human can't actually survive in the environment.
Yeah.
And when you go scrubbing mold with bleach, you start pissing off the mold, and it produces tons of mycotoxins, tons of spores, to try and go, okay, you're trying to kill me, well, I'm going to spread the area with spores to try and survive this. So even if you bleach mold that's black, white, doesn't mean you've killed it. So that's like, I put on my story a while back, when we took all the paneling off the walls under the stairs. I have a HEPA filter, which is a really high-powered micro diameter pore-sized filter. So, you know, it's going down to like 0.3 of a micron. So it's sucking anything that's 0.3 of a micron into the filter.
Yeah.
And I basically sprayed the room with fungicide rather than actually, you know, attacking the mold directly. I just sprayed all the stuff into the air, closed the door, stuck on the HEPA filter fan. Now, the fungicide, spraying the fungicide is probably going to be very similar to trying to scrub it with bleach, but it doesn't have the same sort of impact as physical scrubbing on a surface.
Yeah.
So by allowing the fungicide to propagate through the air, yes, the mold is going to get aggravated and try and release more spores. But that's sort of where you then, when you have the filter running, the filter's drawing what's sort of being trying to spread into the air. But the whole thing of mold remediation then is you really should try and remove whatever surface is contaminated. So if it's a bit of plywood or it's some sort of plasterboard, that you remove that.
Yeah.
But between that and then obviously the garage, if anyone is listening and you go to the mold highlight on my page, you will see what the walls were like in the garage when I was scrubbing the walls last summer.
Definitely gotta check it out after this.
and I was calling the owners of the house every name under the sun at the time.
Yeah.
But literally, it was disgusting what I was washing off the wall before I painted it, because people think then, oh, you know, I'm just going to paint. These were nicotine riddled walls, but if you think about it, within cigarette smoke you have volatile organic compounds, VOCs, which are toxic themselves. They can stick to the walls, they can stick to a surface along with the nicotine. But as well as that, I had all these spores from the door, the mold from the garage door, stuck to the garage walls as well, because of, you know, how thick the nicotine was into the wall. So I could have just went in there and go, oh, you know what, this is grand, I'm just going to renovate in here. I'm going to just, you know, paint all the walls in here, paint over all the yellow, and, you know, I'll be done with it. Just watch the highlight and you see what I washed off the walls. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
And you know, that's where like with the whole thing with mold having the impact on health, it sort of opened up so many people's eyes, that one highlight on Instagram, towards to go, oh, you know what, I suffer with sinus infections all the time. That's, you know, that's all real interesting what you've said, or what the symptoms are of mold toxicity. And then, you know, they come back to you a couple of months there and go, oh yeah, by the way, we like moved away this wardrobe in the room and there was all this black mold growing. Well, there you go. There's
the thing I liked about it, Dean, was like the fact you get a lot of people who go into WebMD and type in whatever, and they get like mound of things saying that they're dying and this, but it's like the way you put it across and the way it was kind of scientifically based, it made it seem a lot more, all right, so these are the steps that we can take to kind of rectify it, rather than you're dying.
Yeah. Well, the thing with, so I've had many consults on mold toxicity, given the amount of time now I've spent trying to train myself and research into it, that it is one of those things that you don't fix immediately, because if there is mold in your environment, you're still breathing in these spores and you're still irritating your immune system. So you either, you know, I guess forensically break down the whole house to ensure that there's no mold present at all, or, you know, you put practices in place where you take certain supplements that are fungicidal in your body, so they kill any fungus that's inside your body. You then, you know, implement a sweat protocol, because like I said, sweat is how your body excretes a lot of these toxins. So you do regular sweating, and then you implement, you know, high fiber and binders that help remove these toxins from your body. But a lot of people end up, and this sort of like brings things, I guess, full circle, in that when I got sick last January, and I was fairly now, I was 99% sure it was mold at this point, given how the previous year went, that when I brought the subject up to my GP, because at this point I got sick the first week of January and I was given antibiotics, and I thought, okay, I've gotten badly sick, I've got a really bad chest infection. let's go the antibiotic route, even though I'm not a fan of them. 3 weeks later, I had to go back to him, still sick. And he said, okay, we'll give you a stronger antibiotic and we'll give it to you for 2 weeks. But I remember saying to him at that second time going back to him, what's the likelihood of having a fungus inside my sinus cavity, inside my nose, that's making me ill, or breathing in fungus or mold spores? And he started laughing. He goes, why would you come up with such a concept? And, I was sort of like, you know what? These guys are so way behind in their way of thinking towards health that we could have loads of people coming into this practice with mold related sinus issues, and they're just constantly being given anti-inflammatory steroidal nose sprays, when you could give them an antifungal nasal spray that would help kill any fungus in their nose. And then obviously if there is any bacteria present, you can give the antibiotic in conjunction with it. But it's important that you're sort of thinking outside the box. And
maybe it's a future calling. Maybe that's the
next step.
Going back to the childhood of maybe GP is the way forward.
I did. I have looked at going the route of going into full-time functional medicine, because that's obviously how I've applied functional medicine to bodybuilding and to health of bodybuilding, of what is the root cause of why you're sick.
Yeah.
But to me, doing this sort of consults and supplementation and supplement needs and bodybuilding, it's all a hobby, really. It's for fun. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not reliant, like I've said this countless times, I'm not reliant on my social media to bring me income. I'm not reliant on, people following me. If people don't want to follow me, unfollow me then. And, last year I had so many trolls come at me because I was speaking some harsh truths when it came to actual real science in the state of play that we were last year.
Yeah.
That, some people were... for a laugh, I'd often screenshot some of the trolls and just put it on my story for a laugh. That
I've seen a few.
Do you think, he's intelligent, he's not going to say anything? And I basically just gave to them as good as they gave. That it always felt great. And my wife used to say to me, "Why do you even entertain trolls?" I said, "Because it's given me good pleasure to reply to someone in such a witty manner and then block them and go, you can never message me again." And then and then they open a second account and they go, "You blocked me because you're a big spa." And then I was like, well, you're the bigger spa for starting a second account just so you could message me. And you blocked them again. And just blocked them again. And then often I put on my story, patiently waiting the third account. So to me, this has all just been for fun. So going the route of going into I guess a career of full-time functional medicine and consultations with patients, of going deep into that and having a sort of proper clinic, I guess I probably just get bored. To me, to me now it's a hobby. So if people consult with me on these things, I've done a level of training that I'm able to interpret tests. I'm able to give people guidance that they might not get going the conventional route. And last year, based on my mold tile, I had 6 consults, all based off molds, that when they went and done the mycotoxin test, came back sky high with ochratoxin, and then there's a couple of other really popular ones as well, like citrin, and that you see people come back sky high with, and you're like, you're actually sick because there's something in your environment making you sick.
Yeah.
That I don't think I could do it. The same with supplement needs, formulating and stuff like that. It's all fun. I guess if there was pressure there to have to create products, like you're saying, what products are coming next? There's a few products coming on the horizon that will be released, I'd say, in the next probably 3 months, given how things are at the moment. And one of them is a not a glucose disposal agent, but a product designed to improve your insulin sensitivity and your glucose oxidation. So that's sort of my next sort of, I guess you could call it like an insulin pancreas stack that's going to help with addressing, people who are sort of on the verge of type 2 diabetes and helping making them more efficient with glucose. Like coming up with ideas like that, that's just from, me reading literature and reading books. Then I go to Lee, there's actually a need for something like this in the market. Like, GDAs are great. And the problem with GDAs is that they've sort of become like a mental crutch in today's supplement world, that someone feels that I'm going to have a cheat meal, so I'm going to take 2 GDAs and it's going to stop me getting fat.
Yeah, I can eat 12 donuts, but I've had 6 GDAs, so I'm all right.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it's become. And this product is by no means like, that's why I didn't want to label it a GDA, because people do view certain supplements as a crutch that, if I don't take this, like I've had conversations with Rich. He said to me there was one guy before he was on prep taking Glycomax, and he ran out of it, and he sort of like to Rich, when can you get it to me? Can you do it like next day delivery? And Rich sort of basically turned around to him and said, you do know that your prep isn't ruined if you miss one day of not taking a GDA. That, people fall into then the psychology of, oh, this stuff was magic, that it magically shuttles all these glucose molecules into my muscles and not into fat cells. That I don't want the product to be viewed in that way, that it's a product that's going to improve your pancreatic function and how your cells are more receptive then to glucose. But with the rest of sort of the panels that are coming, nothing is really in pre-production yet, so I'm not going to give away too much.
Yes. Fair enough.
But there's about 4 or 5 products coming. So I remember I said to Lee last year, because I have pretty much the whole sort of, I'd say the next 9 or 10 products listed out of the formulas. I remember joking with him saying, I'm sort of coming to the end of the line here where I'm running out of ideas, that I've sort of ticked off every box of what I want to do.
Fixed everything that needs to be fixed.
It's sort of like, I'm sort of going to him, what do I do then when I've sort of completed the line, like, and it's done, and you're like just sitting back and going, well, that was fun. What do I do next?
So you've collected all the Pokemon.
Yeah, that's it. You're sitting there going, what do I do next? And then they invent another 300 Pokemon and you have to go again.
Oh God. Okay, well, to put it all back into I say more bodybuilding, but into a more bodybuilder perspective. We've got a couple more questions that relate more to that side of things. So one that we've asked every guest so far is, who or what is your number one physique of all time? Like who do you think looks the best ever? You look at them and think no one can compete. It doesn't have to be, and we've had this, people said this as well, it doesn't have to be someone that's Mr. Olympia, because it's very easy to say, well, Ronnie Coleman was the best because of this, and everybody agrees. It's your personal thoughts on who's the best physique of all time.
Who would have been really influential to me? I guess probably two that really stood out was Jay Cutler has always been the one that was sort of a really big inspiration to me, that when I was 18, 19, sort of getting properly into bodybuilding training, watching some of the like battle for the Olympias from like the 2000 era going against Ronnie, they were just incredible. Of just watching just Jay Cutler's meticulousness, and not even how he trained. Like when you watch Jay Cutler train, he's training ridiculously heavy weights, but at a ridiculous volume that you're sort of, it just mind-boggling by today's standards that people are arguing over, reps in reserve and this, that, and the other, that you're watching this guy pound out sets after sets with like 180 kilos squat, like ridiculous weights that, to me, just that determination of how he trained was really inspiring. And then another physique that I really like is Leela Bradas from like the mid 80s to late 80s, when he was sort of pipping to try and edge Lee Haney out. Between those two, and then I guess like the third physique to me would be Dorian. Just, I think everyone has watched Blood and Guts. Don't get me wrong, you know, everyone sort of goes, Ronnie Coleman did, I think it's the 2000 version of Ronnie Coleman, or 2001 version, that Arnold Classic, that is just mind-boggling, that physique.
I think the problem has distension got worse after that, and it didn't matter how much muscle he put on, that was the focal point for me. It was just like, that looked weird.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same with not to sort of diss, but I really liked Phil Heath up until like the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Like Phil Heath in like 2009, 2010, when he was inching at Cutler, was a beautiful physique. And even the 2011 version of Phil Heath alongside the 2009 version of Jay Cutler, those two pictures, if you ever see the sort of the quad stomp of Jay Cutler of the 2009 Mr. Olympia, and then just that frontable bicep of the 2011 where Phil is sort of edging at Cutler. I think with Phil is sort of the example there. When we went to see the Olympia in 2018, the year Sean bet Phil. When Phil came out, I turned to Morgan, my wife, and said, what's going on with Phil's stomach? Yeah. And even there was a point during the pose down on the Saturday night where the two of them went to the side of the stage, and we had really good seats. We were looking sort of down onto the stage, and Sean Rhoda makes fun, like where he rubs his hand down Phil Heath's abs. I said to Morgan, Sean's won this. Like, you'll see now when they go who the winner is, you'll have a new Mr. Olympia, because Phil's just effed this with the distension.
Yeah.
And given umbilical hernias and not repairing them correctly can completely take away from your physique. You've literally got one job as a professional bodybuilder, and that's to bring the best version of yourself possible. That every year, rather than trying to bring maybe a 1% improvement on the year before, they're trying to bring an extra 2 or 3 pounds of muscle that's requiring a huge effort when they're at that body weight, where they're getting diminished returns. Like, I mean, Jay Cutler was the clear example of that, and that's why I sort of really respect it, is that when he changed from Aceto to Haney Rambod, coming in at like 20 pounds lighter than previous Olympias made him actually look more impressive, because of how crisp his conditioning was and how full he was at that lower body weight. So yeah, Jay Cutler, he's probably the one that's had the most influence. I don't train like Jay Cutler, mind you, but he's
What mindset do you have behind training? It's not on the list, but I'd be interested at how do you train?
So I've always just followed a similar methodology of just progressive overload, whether that's through increasing reps, increasing loads, increasing frequency, just any sort of method that's going to incorporate some sort of facilitation of change, and having the mindset of being able to take things to absolute mechanical failure. Often my brother has a degree in sports management and coaching, and is well clued into the science on muscle hypertrophy and training adaptation and training response. And he's always saying, you should be sort of, undulating your training. You should be having periods in your mesocycle where you're ramping down your load. Whereas to me, I just feel outdone by that if I don't actually push my body to that sort of extent when I'm training. I feel like that was a wasted training session.
Yeah.
Like, given with our second son being born and sleep being a bit rough, Callum Raystrick, who coaches me, he takes care of my nutrition and training, because I overanalyze things too much, that I prefer just handing it all to a coach and they just tell me what to do. And it's been brilliant with Callum so far. But like 2 weeks ago, I was heading for a ditch, and rather than, you know, say take 5 days off training and deload and give my body some rest, he said to me, let's just sort of devolumize, take the top loading sets out of all the work sets and just do your back off set as your main work set, and we'll just leave it at 1 set per main compound exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I remember leaving all that week, those sessions at the gym, going, Jesus, that was okay. You got a bit of a pump, but I didn't really feel like I trained.
Yeah.
But then the following week, when I went back to my normal mesocycle, my weights and all my exercises were up. You know, they were up back, you know, a rep or two more than previous weeks when my body was fatigued. So it definitely does make sense that, you know, we do have to go with some periods where we're allowing the body active rest, whether that's through scheduled rest or through lowering the load, but still maintaining some level of baseline volume so that we're not detraining to the extent of full rest. But I've always just been the mindset of progressive overload, which has led to some silly things happening in training, but touch wood, so far I've not had any bad injuries.
Yeah. There was that one the other week, wasn't it, Jason? We were talking about, I can't, which podcast was it?
We talked about the bench one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
No, I know Ryan very well, so not a wise move.
No. Really, but...
And I coached Charlie Johnson, who was training with Ryan, and so obviously there's sort of the thing that Ryan was made sort of do the 220 by Larry, and Charlie was saying to me afterwards when it happened that it's sort of like it's still in his mind every time he goes to do incline bench press days. We're like, do I really want to do this?
I think there's a lot of people that even when they're programmed incline down, if they've done it for 9 months but they're still inclining, they're like,
it's not nice, is it? But then there was who I saw on Nick Strength and Power yesterday or the day before, someone's torn both of their quads as well. Scott, in one of the New York pro competitors.
yeah,
I can't remember who it was now, but it's bad. But that's the risk that we sort of put ourselves under, I guess. You just got to calculate it and make sure that you don't do stupid stuff like train with Larry Wheels. But
well, that's it. But as well as that, I was given a very invaluable piece of advice when I first started bodybuilding, and it's that your muscles get strong very quick, your tendons don't.
Yeah.
So when you think you can handle a load, yes, the muscle may have the force to be able to resist that load, but if the tendon doesn't have that same resistance, that's what's going.
You could use the analogy. It's okay having an expensive sail that can handle the wind, but if the cords can't handle it, then the sail's worth nothing.
That's it. It's literally, and that's where a lot of guys even injure themselves with 140 kilos. Like it can happen with any sort of load where people have neglected to strengthen the tendon as opposed to, you can't directly increase, I guess the load, you can't directly increase the strength of a tendon, but you can increase its loading capacity and its ability to take pressure of a load through, I guess, acclimatizing to a loading pattern over time.
Yeah.
And that's obviously where guys jump. Obviously, when AAS are involved, we see huge progressions in strength because of how the nervous system responds. But just because the nervous system offers resiliency then to the muscle to take that force, again, is where, shoulder tendons and bicep tendons pop because they just go, okay, I can't take this force. I'm acclimatized to, say, benching 100 kilos, and now you're asking me to do 120, 140 over the space of 2 weeks. That, yes, the force production is there in the muscle, but it's not actually there in the tendon.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's where
another,
the progressive overload comes from, rather than just, you know, overloading every time as much as you possibly can, especially, like you say, if you introduce PEDs into it as well, and sort of gaining that extra strength in the muscle, or even if it's just the mindset behind it, but not actually having the sort of background work and the tendons and whatnot as well.
Yeah,
makes complete sense.
I mean, I had not a similar injury, but back in December, I was doing RDLs with 220 kilos.
Your lower back went into it or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was doing RDLs and everything felt grand. The first couple of reps felt like it weighed nothing, and then rep 4, I started to get this sort of irritation on my hip on the right side. I thought, okay, that's not right, but I'm going to try another rep. Went down for 5. When I went down for 5, I just got this whole ping up the back of my right leg, up into my hip, up into the middle of my spine, and I just let go of the weight. And that's the first time ever training with deadlifts where I've let go of the weight, where I've gone, uh-oh, I've done something not too good there. Like, I mean, I've pinged my QL a few times where your QL gets sort of a little mashed and it just needs to be stretched out and manipulated with some massage. But when I got home, I could barely get myself to the car. So I managed to take all my weight plates off the bar, go out to the car, drive 5 minutes home. And I got in the door and I was like to my wife, something happened funny when I was RDLing. I said to her, and I feel like the top of my right hip is like crushed. And I said to her, will you take a look at me? Because my wife is a level 4 sports injury therapist. So I took off my top and she's like staring at me. And I turned around and said, what's gone wrong? She's like, I think, Dean, you might have seriously hurt yourself. I'm like, why, what's gone wrong? And she's like, just give me your phone. She took a picture, and if you look at my Instagram, you'll see I'd literally given myself really bad functional scoliosis where my spine went like this.
Yeah.
So she's like, I think you've really, really hurt yourself here. So she took me into the massage room in the house, got me down, started working on it immediately, trying to stretch out my QL, stretch out my glutes. But I literally, I couldn't sit up. You know, if I lie down, trying to sit up, I was screaming. The pain of everything above my right hip. And I managed then to go and see Morgan's massage tutor, her lecturer from college, Martin. I often go to him as my injury therapist. And he assessed me and he said, you've done some number on your back. But he turned around to me and he said to me, what weight were you lifting? I said to him, it was 220 kilos. He said, had you had maybe another 10 kilos on that bar and this happened, he said, you would have paralyzed yourself. Yeah. Given how bad my spine was.
Yeah.
So between him acting, because obviously what happened was, funnily enough, what triggered that injury was my right ankle. So my right ankle, the kinetic chain up my right leg had basically gone asleep.
Yeah.
So obviously when I went down for that 5th rep, rather than my glutes or my hamstring taking the load, my QL and my ligaments and my back took it and basically overstretched it. But he, after that, he said to me, you're really going to have to be very careful when you're picking your loads. That he said, this is, you know, you've gotten away lucky this time. One of the ligaments in my QL into my SI joint was badly strained, badly stretched. Mm-hmm. He said, like, you've done quite a bit of damage there. And, you know, that to me was just something that happened, I guess, in hindsight, it was waiting to happen because I had ignored glute activation work. I ignored, you know, working on my plantar fascia. I ignored a few different things along that right leg that you don't really pay attention to during the daytime, but when you're training, obviously your body doesn't view it that way.
Yeah.
And similar, obviously, with the bench press injury, stuff like that, you know, you're only as good as your weakest link, basically.
Yeah.
But but thankfully, thankfully he has me back straight again. But you know, freak injuries like that happen even when you think that you have the strength there to facilitate it. If there's something not strong enough within that chain, you're going to suffer.
So
I mean, you can be as
RDO'd since.
So this is interesting because when he got me back straight, when he got everything into a good alignment, Martin is like a wizard because he does a lot of he does like neurokinetic therapy.
Mhm.
So he's interested in how neural signals are sent through the body. So when he had everything sort of aligned, had all the fascia sorted, had me, you know, pain-free, some stuff needed to be strengthened. So obviously my glute med and my glute max needed a bit of strength and rehab work, and I done that. But I was still getting a slight bit of pain in my hip when I was trying to do a bridge. And it actually turned out when he tested along the kinetic chain, everything was firing perfectly. And then he goes to me, I forget now what he said. He said, "What colour's your car?" And I said to him, "Black." And he goes, "Are you sure it's not a blue car?" And I said, "No, it's black." But while he was asking me that, he was getting me to do the movement of a glute bridge. And he said to me, "You do realise you've just done a glute bridge with no pain?" And he said, "It's on your head." He said, the brain is still registering that pattern of movement as a painful pattern.
Mhm.
So when you're doing that movement, even though there's no restriction there to limit that movement, you're still experiencing pain because your brain is still associated with that trauma of that injury.
Yeah.
So basically I had to go back to in the garage of just trying to RDL a bar, RDL a 5 kilo weight, a 10 kilo weight, just to get that pattern, that motor pattern back to tell my brain, okay, it's actually okay to do that movement.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Whenever I go to see Martin, he just blows my mind because half the time I think something's up and he goes, "Actually, no, it's your neck that's the problem."
Yeah. No, it's always something else, isn't it? You're having pain in one place, but it's something further down the line that's sort of causing it, isn't it? Usually.
So
Thing's right though. It doesn't matter how meticulous you are in, you know, your training, nutrition, and whatnot. There's always room for error. There's always something that could potentially go wrong, you know, regardless of how well you sort of cover yourself for those situations.
Yeah. There's, I guess one thing it sort of taught me again is to stop being lazy when it comes to my mobility work, because the last day I was in with him, he said my quads were like bricks, and that's because I've just been so lazy the last, I'd say 5 or 6 months, not doing quad stretches or couch stretches to keep my hip flexors open. So give me a stark reminder to go back doing that. Otherwise you're going to end up with old man knees, he said, because your knee tracking is going to completely change. And obviously that wears away at your meniscus over a period of time. So definitely if anyone's listening to this, don't be lazy. Keep on top of your prehab and rehab.
Definitely, 100%. Okay, Jason, what's the next question you've got? I've got loads left. Might have to even do a 2-part podcast at this point, to be fair.
Yeah, we're coming up on an hour and a half. People will be sick of listening to me.
So if you could pick like 3 Instagram accounts that you first thing you look at Instagram, that's the 3 you go to. I'll say apart from Callum, because I think you probably look at Callum first. What would the 3 be? Doesn't have to be bodybuilder or anything. It could be anything.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think. We'll do an experiment here and see who comes up as the
top 3 stories.
The top 3 stories. So the top 3 stories that are coming up here are Rich from Strom, a guy called Science Cited. He's very interesting. And the next one after that is a guy called Larry Doyle, who's a coach in Ireland. So they're the 3 when I refresh that are coming to the top at the moment. And obviously with the algorithm, that's sort of who the last 6 people you view sort of come to the top. So
yeah,
I think Richard Strom's been sort of, we've only added that in sort of halfway through, but he's in pretty much everyone's except his own. Okay, so I'm going to ask this one, but we'll do it as a quick fire. So one of the questions I had on Instagram was, what's your top 5 supplements for health and top 5 supplements for bodybuilding?
So top 5 supplements for health.
Assisted and non-assisted, I guess.
Yeah, so probably from the top for health anyway, multivitamin, multimineral, a good quality omega-3 fish oil. If you want to cheat, Immuno Pro. And if you don't want to cheat, then vitamin A and vitamin D. And then 2 more, liposomal glutathione. And the 4th one, maybe magnesium. Those would be sort of the 5 that I'd say most people are deficient in magnesium. Liposomal glutathione, with that many pollutants and oxidants in our environment, that a lot of people are slowly depleted of glutathione, so we're sort of offsetting aging with that. Immuno Pro is like a 14 ingredient immune stack product that has vitamin A and vitamin D in it, so again we're helping with the immune system. Omega-3 fish oil for keeping arterial inflammation down and obviously having cognitive benefit on neural inflammation, and then multivitamin, multimineral, because you're covering all bases with that.
I will say I started using the supplement needs multivitamin and mineral last year, and I've actually been the first year in a good while that I've not had like illness at all.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, and that's when I was reformulating that, I made sure that we put a really high dose of vitamin A into it. That's actively what your body uses to signal IgA and IgG production in your mucous membranes. So obviously your throat and your nose are the first part that a virus like a cold or a flu comes into contact with. So having high amounts of vitamin A keeps that mucosal IgA production high, so that when you do encounter a virus, you have these antibodies ready to try and fight it off. For assisted athletes, this is sort of an open-ended question, because I hate people viewing supplements as an insurance policy when it comes to advanced supplementation, in that just because you take these products does not mean that you're not going to suffer adverse consequences. Yeah. And that's something that I try and really drum in, that even if you use the advanced health stack between the liver, kidney and heart, it still doesn't guarantee that something isn't going to happen further down the line. It's going to help, obviously, but the other sort of scenario you have to view is your lifestyle and nutrition has a bigger impact to your AAS health detriment than you actually consider. You know, people tend to think, oh, if I take this supplement and that supplement, yet they go to Five Guys or they get Domino's. You know, you're sort of, CV stack is designed to increase your HDL and lower your LDL, and to offset oxidation in your arteries, which can cause plaque development. But if you're being exposed to massive amounts of pollution, or you're ingesting foods that have tons of free radicals, processed foods, rancid oils, you're not even negating one or the other. You're taking a supplement that isn't really going to have any huge benefit because of the impact that your diet is having. So when it comes to supplements for enhanced users, okay, you can make a broad recommendation and go, you know, something like the advanced health stack, or, you know, the budget alternative is Support Max. They could incorporate, you know, a sleep aid if they're having issues with sleeping, and higher magnesium, because again, they're going to be depleted from magnesium. What else? I guess what I'm trying to get is how I view people that are advanced or enhanced, how they should approach their supplementation is through their blood work. So 5 or 6 weeks into enhanced usage, go get your blood work done and see what's been impacted. So has your creatinine been elevated? has your blood pressure increased? Are you making more estrogen? Has your HDL dropped and your LDL increased? You know, all these simple things. Has your liver enzymes increased? And then from there, pick the stack of products that you require, rather than saying, you know, take X, Y, and Z, and this is going to lead to a positive benefit in your health because of, you know, you're taking these products, when in reality, you know, you need to assess what's happening in the serum of obviously your blood chemistry, and then incorporating the supplement practice. So,
but you could be taking five supplements, but actually only really require 2, and one might need further investigation as to the cause of the issue.
You know, I have guys like even consults to discuss this topic, and they're like, "Oh, what supplements do I go and buy?" And it's like, well, really, we just need to see what happens at week 5, week 6 to your health, and then go buy them. Because to be honest, if you're going to buy loads of supplements thinking that they're an insurance policy, half them, as you said, might not be needed. And then you're just wasting money on supplements that really, okay, I'm not going to say they're not going to have any benefit to your health or they're not going to have any positive impact, but for the marginal gain that you're going to get out of them versus the implication to your budget, you know, it might not be worth it overall, when you could be actually using that money to buy good quality food rather than relying on processed food or cheap takeaway stuff to keep on top of your food intake. So the enhanced side, I guess what I've listed for the health side of things for a natural, you could say, or general population, would still apply to a enhanced individual, but the likes of the specifics of certain ingredients, you know, curcumin, glutathione, CV stack, liver stack, would really be dependent on what their blood work is saying. And then it's very easy to tailor what they should be taking it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's actually how I got into I got my blood checked just to see any deficiencies, and actually was deficient in selenium, I think the name of the thing is. And then when I looked at multivitamins, there was very little on the general market that actually contained a decent amount of selenium apart from supplement needs.
Yeah, and it's very important then in your thyroid health and your metabolism, selenium, because it helps with selenoproteins, and they actually transport your thyroid hormone. So it's definitely it's good to get your blood work done, obviously, even if you're not enhanced, as a regular health check to see, are you deficient, where's your vitamin D level considering the environment we're in, you know, does that need to be optimized, your vitamin B12, your folate, all these little things, your magnesium level and your electrolytes, all have applications to normal population over enhanced. So
it's worth doing a check even if you're not enhanced, then, just to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Jason, have you got any more?
Nope. Basically all of mine have been answered.
Okay, right. I've got 3 more, so I'll go through them quick because I don't want to keep you too long. But first one, which is one that Jason spoke about earlier, is the most surreal moment of your career so far.
There's been a couple, but I always laugh. There was one time we were at the Mr. Olympia, like I said, in 2018, me and my wife, and we were queuing up to get our tickets to go into the venue. And I turned around, there was some guy behind me talking. I turned around and it was John Meadows. And he turns around and he goes, "You're Dr. Dean." I was like, "What?"
That's crazy.
And then he had a guy with a video camera. He goes, "Oh, do you mind if we if we get some shots on video?" And he's there standing talking to me. I'm like just staring at him, like gobsmacked that this guy knows who I am. And like if you go onto YouTube and you type like Mr. Olympia John Meadows 2018 or whatever you entitle, you'll see it. And like I'm just standing there like completely like stargazed that this guy is talking to me and he knows who I am. And I remember watching it back. My brother messaged me when we were in Vegas and he goes, "John Meadows just put something on YouTube and you're in it and you're standing there like a plank and he's trying to talk to you." I'm like on to him. yeah, because he's there asking me something, and I'm thinking like, how does this guy know who I am? So that was very strange, because I mean, I had a few people come up to me when we were walking around the expo and like stop me and going, "Oh, can we get a picture with you?" I'm like, going, "Okay." and then a sort of the next sort of surreal moment was then Body Power in 2019, because at that point then I'd become sort of well known through trained by JP, and literally trying to walk through the crowd, and people stopped me every 5 minutes like, "Oh, can we get a picture with you?" And I remember like walking past a stall, and a guy stopped me and he went, "I know you from somewhere." And I just looked at him and I said, "What?" And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Oh, you're Dr. Dean." you know, like to me, I would have went to Body Power every year before that and just walked around the crowd with my wife, just going to see it. And it was just strange that people were stopping you to get a picture or to ask you a question, or, thank you for following you. And, all these things that to me just, it still doesn't sink in that, like I said, I'm not, I've introverted tendencies where I keep to myself, but it's a little surreal that people see you as such this sort of, I don't know, authoritative figure that, last year when people were arguing about certain things online and they'd like tag you and go, "I'm getting Dr. Dean involved in this." And like, it just came to a point where it's like, do I have to argue with people online because someone's tagged me in like a tag team? Go for it. I've tagged you in now. Sick 'em with your science. That,
You do know that'll be the title of this video. Sick 'em with your science.
Yeah, sick 'em with your science. Like someone tagged me in something today, a comment, because they were asking some pro, "Oh, will you discuss your AAS?" And naively this pro replied back, "What's AAS?" And then someone who followed me went, "Stop following people like this and follow an authoritative figure like Dr. Dean." It's like the fact that the guy doesn't even tell you what AAS is tells you your answer. So they're probably the two most sort of surreal moments so far of,
I can imagine,
just being recognized when, before you were just a regular, just a regular fitness enthusiast or whatever, to sometimes it sort of makes you wonder then, you have this much influence. And like, this is what I mean. Like, I don't rely on anything when it comes to social media. And you often get people going, "Oh, you're in such a, you've such influential power." Like last year when I was sort of like questioning, people are going on about masks. I'm like, here's the science of masks. You want to wear a mask, go for it. But it's doing nothing to protect you. And as much as you want to put your hands in your ears and ignore what I'm saying, this is what the science says. And I had so many arguments with people online that, you're basically saying something to try and prove a point, and people don't want to listen. So
no.
It's
talk to you about,
I don't know, it's so it's strange how people, and people sort of say you have this authoritative figurative stance that you need to be careful with what you say online. And it's like, well, and that's sort of where a lot of the trolls came from last year, where they're sort of going, "Oh, what do you know?" And it's like, well, actually. And,
start posting pictures of certificates and degrees and whatnot.
It's like, I've never once, and I've always said this, I hate education by authority or point by authority. That whole fallacy of listen to me because I'm a doctor, or, I've got a degree, or blah, blah, blah. You should actually have the science to back up what you're saying.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, "Oh, just because I'm a doctor and I've said so, you do as I say." And that's sort of what I was trying to get people to see last year was, don't be afraid to question science, and don't be afraid to use critical thinking, because when you start asking critical questions and you don't get critical answers, that's when you need to be worried.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the last two I'll sort of put together. This is actually from somebody again on Instagram. If it wasn't for supplement needs, what other brand would you choose? And obviously the double prong part of that is, what's your favorite product that's outside the supplement needs range, but I guess that'd be part of it anyway.
This is a tough one.
If you had to use one brand, so not like one product from different brands to make up a complete sort of overall stack. If you could only choose one brand to use, which one would it be? So
I guess the fairly simple question that would be Strom, would be Rich. I trust Rich's line, and I hope he was asked this question. He said supplement needs.
I'm not sure. Yes, that's
but Rich has the same ethos, and I personally used a lot of Strom products as well. I like Velocity. I like before PM priming was made. I used to use Support Max Neuro, and my wife liked Support Max Neuro.
Yeah.
There's a lot of products there, like even Support Max Joint is another product that I'll put in and out every couple of months just to keep things nice and supple, and I have a bit of elbow tendonitis that flares. That seems to help with it. So
in the last 2 months, so it has using the Joint. I've got a history of bad knees and stuff, blew my knee a few years back, and it's actually helped a lot with the inflammation and pain and stuff like that. I get in my joints from that.
Yeah, so I trust everything that he puts out. So I mean, I like Stimumax as a pre-workout. He's pretty much, that's why, again, when it comes back to like when I was developing the pre-workout products, the pre-series, I was looking at like Rich had Vascumax and he had Stimumax, and I'm sort of looking at, I've already got good competitors here with products that I like. How can I put something that is different, that doesn't overlap? I only done a podcast recently with Rich, and I said to him, the next product that's coming is Glucox, which is the sort of GDA product. And I was joking with him saying, don't worry, it's not like Glycomax. It's completely different product. And that's because I don't want to be doing products that other people are doing. Like if someone has something out there already, what's the point in copying them? And this was what drove me mad about people that copied SleepStack. There have been so many companies that have copied SleepStack, well-known companies, that if I got them in person, they'd get an earful on top of something else.
I think Rich has had that problem with Neuro a lot of the time when that came out, because obviously there wasn't a lot like that.
This again goes to show the respect that guys have in the supplement industry. Rich released Support Max Neuro PM, and he asked me, he goes, I'm putting out a PM version of Support Max Neuro because of how well SleepStack stacks with Neuro PM. So I'm going to give people the option to have a product similar to the two of them. And he said to me, like, is there a problem with that? And I said, no. He said to me, if you want to do that, perfect. But there's that sort of, I don't want to be stepping on, you've done SleepStack and see that I'm copying you. I just see that if I put this out, there is a market demand there for this product. So rather than, just copying SleepStack and throwing Neuro in with it, he just added in certain aspects of the SleepStack to complement Neuro. So that to me, that sort of slyness in the supplement industry on top of doing, cheap products, copying other people's ideas is just, you'll always get caught out. It's like, there's always people who would copy your homework and then the teacher would ask them the answer and they couldn't explain the answer. And it's sort of like, people like that who copy formulas will eventually get caught out because they can't explain the product. They just basically copied what someone else has done, and then they go, oh, that product works because it's this product and that supplement. So
yeah, I can understand that. I guess that would probably be your pet hate as well then.
It is. And it just, you can't patent supplements. That's the problem. So you can't patent the formula.
Yeah.
because it's an open market and it's in the open domain. So anyone can copy anyone, and anyone can copy you and then try and undercut you by a couple of pounds to try and, you know, steal your customers with a cheaper product.
Yeah.
And that's really annoying because there's no sort of regulation there. So it's very easy for a brand to just start up their own brand, copy someone else's formulas, and then just try and undercut, where you then send the whole supplement industry into disarray because there's now pretty much people are going, okay, I'm going to shave off a bit of his profit margin, so I'm going to steal his customers. But then the rest of the industry has to start dropping too. So, you know, the profit margins then overall as an industry drop off considerably because someone's decided to be a smart arse.
I think that's where the company brand and the company's perception kind of a lot of time will rule over what the actual, like if somebody's came out something like Sleep Snack, but then
that's exactly it. I mean,
we'll still go and get the expensive one, even if it's.
I mean, there was an American company that released a sleep product that is the exact same formula as Sleep Stack, and it came up as an ad on my Instagram. I remember putting it on my story last summer, and needless to say, they closed the Instagram page after 24 hours because they just started getting abuse from all the followers on my page that, you know, were sending messages going, why are you copying other people's products for, you know, that's a bit of a disgrace that you can't come up with your own formula. And, you know, just because you're in America doesn't mean that you can steal someone's formula. But
that's the idea. Especially as you approach that market in the future, and you know it's already there because somebody's stolen all the different formulas that you've formulated over the years, and
that's why I'd be like to Lee, who owns Supplement Needs. You know, now is the time to start expanding before people start ripping us off, and we're chasing after customers, because you know people will see this as a lucrative opportunity to, you know, rip off someone and get ahead of a brand by releasing similar products that are slightly underpriced to gain a market share. So definitely my current pet hate.
Okey-dokey then. I think that's all my questions done. I haven't got there's plenty more. To be fair, I've written down like the ones that I was asked, a few more complicated ones that I might actually message through to you on Instagram because can't pronounce half the words. But yeah, there's a few more, but I think we'll leave it there because I think we're coming up to 2 hours and it's a long old time for you to be sat talking to us tonight. But
brilliant. So
really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, Dean.
Yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. So we'll definitely, if I have time, we'll do a second part. We've got more questions because I'm always happy to do stuff like this.
Yeah, I think we definitely appreciate a second one as well at some point. I think, just let everyone know how they can get onto you on social media and whatnot.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Dean STM, DEANSTM, and the company, as we've been talking about, is Supplement Needs, so supplementneeds.co.uk. And my code, if people want some discount, is Dr. Dean. So I think that saves 5 or 10% off your order. So I don't get anything personally for that code. So use it away or whatever you want, but it'll take a bit of sting out of your order. So like we discussed, there's the full advanced health stack, and there's the Immuno Pro and liposomal glutathione. There's about 40 products. And then the newest sort of thing that we're about to launch is Supplement Needs Education, which will be like an education platform website.
So the sticker on your t-shirt there.
On a t-shirt. so that's the next thing that's about to launch within this month. And that'll be a fully comprehensive education coaching platform. So I've got some nice people as part of the team, that some industry leading experts is what I call them. And that will soon be released. So if you keep an eye on my social media, you'll see when the website's launched and the URL for the website. But for now, it's still being tidied up for completion. And
is that going to be like a subscription service similar to
it? It is. So there'll be a small subscription, but There's also a tier 1 to the website, which it's going to have probably about 80 free videos to start. And every product within the supplement needs range has an in-depth video by myself. So if people want to, learn more about the products, that's the whole idea of the education website, is to allow me a platform, because legally we're not allowed to discuss the products on the shop website.
Yeah.
So by having an education website away from the retail, I'm able to have full, I guess, academic license to break down the formulas and educate consumers on the products themselves. So tier 1 has a lot of free material, even like the basics of nutrition, the basics of training, just real basic informative stuff for lay people that might not even have any experience with this, that 15, 16-year-old people who are just getting into the gym and want to gain a little bit of knowledge. All that free content is going to be there for those who sign to the website.
And like I said, I'm definitely going to be on there as soon as it launches.
It'll be completely free, and then there is a paid subscription side to it that has a fully interactive forum, and then there's more advanced video content that sort of lead on from the basics. So I'll share everything as soon as we're fully ready to launch. But it's been about a year trying to get this off the ground.
And I will say, Supplement Needs, their meal prep bag, I've been using it for about 6 months now. Very, very good. Very durable.
It's lovely, and I've been working from home for the last year, so mine is just sat in the kitchen there waiting to be used.
Yeah, mine has been in and out of the care home, so it definitely works.
Okie dokie then. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, and thanks very much for taking the time to chat with us and come on the podcast.
Yeah, no, an absolute pleasure. So definitely do part 2, and I'll leave you to have a good night.
And you too. Thank you very much.
See you. Bye.
Hey guys, if you liked today's video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you look down in the bio, there'll be all the links to my social media, Tom's social media, and also the guests. So please, if you like it, share it with your friends and anybody that you feel would benefit from it. And thank you very much in advance.